Hey guys, well, I'm actually using the GoPro back again. As you can see, I have my phone controlling it. I'm going to do some test videos. I just got a new memory card, and we have some work to do. As you can see in front of us, we have the wood pellet stove. She, unfortunately, as you can see, is not running right now. This happened yesterday during the night, and then we had some more issues during the day today. The auger motor has decided to quit. First time it quit, I'll show you guys what it is. First time it quit was yesterday. The gear that's up inside of this system over here, for some reason there's a gear that's popped. So what I did is I shimmed up the motor, everything was fine, it's running okay, but now the auger is bound up twice. So I'm going to try and show you guys how to take this apart, if you guys can see properly, and apparently I'm getting a message. So, we're going to see what I can do with this. Try and give you guys a step-by-step on how to do this. If you guys have any questions, leave me a comment. I'll be happy to help you. This thing is from... when was the date? It was in 1994 by the looks of it. October 94 was the production date. We've been using it since then. Did the math, it's had about 110,000 pounds of wood through this thing over the years, and it's run beautifully. It's just now we've had two other issues. We had an issue with the exhaust motor, which is on the other side, and that's been fixed. Everything's fine with that. The only issue we have now is now the auger is started. We know the gearbox was starting to go, but we're going to see whether it's the gearbox or the inside. You guys are following me on Instagram, which I'll leave a link somewhere in the video. You'll be able to take a look at some of the pictures of the gearbox open and a few other issues that we had with it. So first step, disconnect the power. As you can see, she's disconnected. This, if any of you are wondering, is actually something I built to connect a regular thermostat, which is an electronic 7-day blah 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 thermostat, to this unit. This unit doesn't handle the normal connection that thermostat, which is somewhere around the corner, uses. So I had to build an interface between the two, which is a relay, a control which in the thermostat, and interface in between the two. It runs on 110 volts. There's a transformer inside for the relay. Very simple, very elegant. Also, pictures are on my Instagram. I do work Instagram pictures from time to time. So I'll show you guys one quick thing to test if the motor was bound up or not. I made a simple test lead with a switch, a plug, two wires with flat stabs on them to see if the motor would spin, and it's locked. So next step that we gotta do, clean out all this. So you guys, simple, take your bucket, fill the bucket, and dump the bucket. Any questions about that? Don't even bother asking them. So guys, for this step, make sure that there's nothing on, because as I'll show you down here, under all these pellets is the one thing that has, there you go. So right down there is a metal auger. This thing will tear your finger right off. The amount of torque that little motor has and the speed it's going, you won't even know until your finger is caught. So beware, make sure this thing's unplugged when you're working on it, you'll be good. So get this thing empty. Once you get all the pellets out, you will have to vacuum all up in here. Make sure this whole track is empty, make sure the whole bottom is. Then from there, I'll show you guys what to do next. See you guys in a bit. Thank you. Okay guys, so next step, loosen up the motor back here. Luckily it stopped just where I can access it. So now the motor leads for the motor are disconnected. You can now sort of jimmy it. Oh, maybe not. The auger is still quite seized, so you will have to rock it a little bit to get it to unseize. And then we'll be able to figure out where it's stuck. The sound of it is actually jammed up inside, so lightly tap it. get it to unbind. She is currently really stuck. That's usually caused by a piece of pellet or something that's caught up in here, but this time she is locked solidly up. As you can see, you can't rotate at all. And normally, so, motor's starting to loosen up again. We can inspect on the inside and see what it looks like. Now with the light you can see you have your auger. It's loosening up, but something is wickedly binding up, or was. That was the motor spinning. So let's disconnect the motor, get that out of the way, and start with the next step. As you can see, it's a little bit hard to get to. You're looking to disconnect this. Excuse the noise as the camera hits the wall. I'm wearing a helmet mount, if anyone's wondering. So for this, you're using a 1/4 inch Allen key. Come on. Luckily, the other times the motor stopped in an easier position. This time, she has not. There you go. Now once you got that loosened, back it off a little bit more. And work her off. This, thank you, is the gearbox. It's a 1 RPM grease-filled gearbox with a standard 1.1 watt 120 volt motor. Excuse me. It's been a great thing, but it's 20 years old. It's starting to get a little tired. So this I'll be ordering off eBay. If you guys ever go look for this part, don't put in pellet stove parts. Put in auger motor, and you'll find this exact motor. I'll show you guys a little bit later what's going on. So now we have this off, we can spin the auger freely. Now we can dump down the pellets that have jammed up inside, which as you can see, I'm trying to turn this by hand, and she is spinning, but something is binding up. So now that we have this issue, let's take a look and see where something is binding. Normally this runs pretty cleanly, but as you can hear, something is causing this thing to bind up really bad. As you can see the pile of sawdust that's coming down? Something is clogged up. So I'm going to vacuum this out a little bit more. We're going to pull the auger assembly out and see what the hell is wrong. Boop. If you guys are wondering, I'm using the GoPro app to control this thing because it's a little bit easier. There you guys. Well, time to start the disassembly. So you're going to need a 7/16 socket. Apparently I'm playing dumb this morning. 7/16, there you are. Grab your large wrench. And now, right over here, you'll find 4 bolts. Got 1, got your 2, 3, got your 4. This way. Move this out of the way because it's hitting me in the head. So leave the top bolt in, take out 1, 2, and 3. There is a gasket on here that you'll have pain. Leave these screws in a good place where you'll be working. Well, gasket lets go. You can now pull the last screw. Pull the clamp off. Stick it, sorry guys, stick it with this. There you go. Now pull the plate off gently. So you can rip the gasket. And now I'm going to stick one hand down in here, hold this up, and now pull the plate off. And unfortunately, it looks like this one has a slight cut in it. Leave this together as one assembly, and now stick this over here. You'll find a bunch of washers. Keep them in order. If you don't, you'll have issues. And there is your auger. This is a stainless steel auger. Beautiful. As you can see, it's actually really decent shape considering. We saw a bunch of pellets come out at the same time. That's an issue that I didn't want to see. So, as you can see, the grease up here is dried. It's really dry. Which is no surprise considering this thing is running dry material through it. Next thing I noticed, let's point this, the washers here are boogered pretty bad. The slip brass bushing here, same issue. She's got a pretty bad wear on it. So first, because I found out that this thing was binding even without wood in it, so first thing, we'll clean up the inside of here with the vacuum. Next thing, we'll get this cleaned up, clean the plate, make sure anything that touches the inside is clean. These washers, I have some more. I'm going to re-washer it, put a little bit of oil on this bushing, which as you can see is dirty. This thing should be clean. It should be actually oiled. This is called sintered bronze. Excuse me, sintered bronze. What this means is that it's actually porous. If you stick this in oil, it'll actually absorb oil. What you do is you can either grease or oil these, and then put it back together, and we'll start fresh from there. Hey guys, I don't know how well you're going to see this, but look up in the end. You'll see it's fairly clean, but you see another sintered bronze bushing. So I'm going to put a little tiny bit of grease on the end of the shaft before I put it in to get that thing lubed up also. Hey guys, well, I'm back at it. So I discovered an issue. I don't know why you can see that. These are not flat like they're supposed to be. See how it's worn into a conical shape? And you see how this washer is conical also? Let's see if I can get a closer look with a better light. So, if you look carefully at the shape of it, she is not flat in any way, shape, or form. And this is also worn into that same shape. That's what 100,000 pounds or plus of wood over 20 years has done to this thing. So what I'm missing here, it turns out, is a giant washer. That shoulder is way too small for what this washer is meant for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything off. I'm going to clean up everything here. I'm going to switch out this washer with some other washers that have soaking in oil right now in a sample cup. Need to send out some samples, stool sample, whatever. So I have a thicker washer here. I have a few more thin washers. And then here I'm going to actually machine it using a drill and a flat sanding disc. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten it out as best I can, straighten it up, polish it up until it's a nice mirror finish, and I'll show you guys what's next. well, I got the new bushing placed in, I got grease and 2 new washers swapped back in, and now she spins freely. The bushing's loose in the metal casting, but that's because there is a bit of damage to it because it stopped spinning. Next step will be, excuse me, applying a little bit of lithium grease to the tip over here, which goes up into the machine. As you can see, there is a bit of heat damage to the end of this just because of the heat that comes off of the inside the auger. So we'll stick some high temp lithium and see how she goes. Okay. Okay guys, so she is installed, she is up, and that is beautiful. So the upper bearing bushing, which I can't get to, is up in here. Unfortunately, there's no way to get into here, so I just had to put grease on the end of the shaft and stick it up in there. Bottom part, you can see a little bit of the grease oozing. That is fine. You see now, go away cloth. She spins beautifully. So she's now got 2 washers down here. Both have grease in between them. There's the sintered bronze bushing, which is at the bottom. And you can see it right up in there. Should be able to see it. I put the bolts in loose. Next thing I have to do is tighten them up. I do need to do one thing. You saw how hard it was to take the motor off? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to file this edge down and clean up it, because it has a bit of stuff on here. Put some grease on it, put it back in, and we'll test her out. Show you guys that in a few minutes. Okay guys, so as I said before, took a little bit of sandpaper, cleaned this up quite a bit. Now I'll stick a little tiny bit of moly grease, just make it easier to put it together. Just enough to wet. Make it easier to reinsert into the auger setup. So you take your piece, you see the flat side, that is going to line up with this set screw. In my case, it's sort of facing up. Was that much easier than before? Now you tighten the screw until it's down. Now you'll get the Allen key that I showed you before, which was 1/4 inch. And try and tighten up without the motor taking off on you. Fudgy motor. Let's do this with 2 hands. There you go. All nice and tight. Whew. And for you guys wondering what it is I built before, as I said, it is a switch with a plug and 2 flat stabs. I'll show you what this is for now. So, electronics on the stove are still disconnected. What I'm going to do is plug this into my motor. Make sure everything is seated properly. Next step, it's just tape. Next step, plug this in over here. And now, it's hard to hear because it's actually running nice and quiet. Fuck. You are not seeing me. It's extremely hard to see, but she is turning. Let's take a look inside. Yeah, she is slowly rotating. This gearbox is set up at 1 RPM. Yes, that's apparently all you need, but look, 1 RPM is this big by this big of wood. This thing runs, depending on how fast you're running, about, let's say 60 to 70% duty cycle on the motor, depending on what you set these settings to. So, time to let that run for a while, see how she does. And this is the warning that I meant. You see how my finger's here? It'll suck my finger up with no problem at all. So, let this run for a minute or two, fill it up with some wood, and see if anything bites up again. See you in a bit, guys. Okay guys, so the next test we need to do is a RPM test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick the switch. You see down on here I have marked the auger with a mark. I marked the wall with a mark. What we're going to do is this motor is supposed to be 1 RPM, so let's test it. Ready, set, go. While I was doing the test before, I noticed that when it was spinning, it turns out the electric motor wasn't spinning at full speed. Because you saw the auger, now you can see it's pretty well moving. Before you couldn't even see it moving. It turns out the motor was lagging a bit because it had been sticking. So, let us test what the final verdict is. It looks like it's gonna be good. Or not. She just passed halfway. We're getting close. Get ready with the switch. So, let us take a look where it stopped. And, ta-da! It's a little off, but you know what? I'm fine with that. So, the motor is spinning at full speed. Next test we gotta do is, let's find the bucket of wood I had. Hope you guys can see this. If not, I'm sorry. The angle's a little off. So, let's fill her up. I'm somewhat confident this is going to work. Let's see. Normally the stove would control all this, but because the stove runs on a on-off switch, it's harder to do it. It takes 3-4 times as long to do compared to just hot wiring it, running the motor, and seeing how she runs. So now we got a few minutes before it's going to start coming out. Show you guys what the inside looks like. Of course, everything has to be in the way right now. Here's the wood. You can see the wood from when I was spinning it by hand before, which we can throw back onto my light, apparently. Let's let her run, guys, and I'll be back with you in just a few minutes. Okay, guys, so the test was a success. You can see a pile of wood shavings and inside. It is pumping. So, next step, reconnect your connectors. It should be 1 and 2. Everything's nice and good. Motor is warm, but nothing abnormal for this thing. And now, let's start her up. Sorry about the bright light. So, first thing you do, plug in the power. Thermostat is going to be plugged in here. So, thermostat's got power. Good, so push start. That's good, everything's running. Oops. Let's go kick the thermostat on for a minute. So she's set for 16. Let's set it for 18, 19. Let's give 19 a try. So you can hear right now she's in slow mode. She is barely running. But you'll hear a click. She kicks in. So now that she's feeding, I'll show you guys how to light this thing. Give me 2 minutes. Guys, so you can hear it's running, you can hear the air. She is completely cold right now because she's been sitting for a while. So, next step, take your lighter fluid. Put a generous amount. Not too much that it drips, but enough that you'll keep the wood going. Take your ignition source of choice, matches. Light her up. And now, once you see the fire is getting going, you slowly start to close the door so you don't shock the fire, which sounds really weird. And now, close it. Right now, the auger is off, just for it to get the wood started first. After that is going, then you let her sit for a bit. You can see right now the glass is really dirty and dark. It's kind of hard to see through. So I'll clean that next week once I know that everything's working. And whilst this is starting up, What you want to do is wait for the embers to really start picking up. Wait till there's a nice good 2 or 3 inch flame on top of the wood, and then you could start up the auger and let her run. Hopefully now she's fixed, now that we fixed the sintered bronze bearing. If you guys have any questions, let me know. That'll be the end of this video for now until I have something else to do on it. But another project for you guys, how to. Stay tuned guys for some more videos, and thank you for all your support over the past few years. Been away for a little while, but I'm back. Talk to you later guys. Hey guys, well, awesome. As you can see, fire's still going. We're about 15 minutes in. It's nice and toasty now. She is running beautifully. So, we'll see how she goes in the next little while. I'll give you guys an update in a few days. See how she's running and see if that was the issue. There is going to be more work to do on this thing. I'll show you guys a full video on how to clean this thing. That I'll do next weekend if everything's good. So guys, thank you for the support. Thank you for all the views and all the help you've been the last few years, and keep on going. I'm Mad Monkey, also known as Eric. Rock on guys. Have a great day.